What you're going to watch is one of the first special Heliborne operations carried out by the Indian Air Force, and this was in the 1971 war in the eastern sector. The 110 helicopter unit, which flew Mi-4 helicopters, was commanded at the time by squadron leader Charanjit Singh Sandhu, and they were attached to the 4 Corps of the Indian Army commanded by Lieutenant General Sagat Singh. It was a fast-moving battle which started on the 3rd of December 1971 evening. On the 6th and 7th of December, the 28th Squadron of the Indian Air Force flying MiGs out of Borjhar in Guwahati had cratered the Tezgaon runway in Dhaka, which grounded the 14th Squadron of the Pakistan Air Force. This development created an opportunity for the Indian Army, and Lieutenant General Sagat Singh decided to carry out the first Heliborne operation into Sylhet using the 110 helicopter unit, which was essentially for rescue and evacuation purposes only. Hear the story from the cockpit by one of the officers who was a part of the 110 helicopter unit. Then Flying Officer Ram Mohan Sridharan, later Air Commodore Sridharan.
I am Air Commodore Ram Mohan Sridharan. I got commissioned in the Indian Air Force on 21st June 1969 and was then posted to Kumbigram, which is in southwestern Assam. And I was posted to a helicopter unit, 110 helicopter unit, which consisted of Mi-4 helicopters. I had graduated from helicopters at Helicopter Training School in Jodhpur and then moved to Kumbigram. And it took me 2 years to get fully operational on this Russian helicopter. It was a single-engine helicopter and it could carry 15 to 20 troops. I became fully operational, as I said, after 2 years, and the refugees started coming in from March 1971. The Pakistani refugees from East Pakistan started trickling into Assam. And then we came to know that we would probably be in for a war with East Pakistan. And accordingly, our trainings was molded in such a way that we started preparing for Heliborne operations, which had been briefed to our CO by General Sagat Singh. General Sagat Singh and 110 had a very close relationship right from the 69-70 period, because he was then 101 Com Zone Commander and his area of operation was the Mizoram area. And we did a number of heli lifts which were done by day in Mizoram, but those were only troop lifts. They were not, in the true sense, a heliborne operation. It was just lifted from one helipad to another, and they were done single aircraft at a time. But what was planned by General Sagat, as told to our CO, was he wanted an entire force to be heli-lifted to whichever place that he would designate, and he wanted our unit to train accordingly. So our CO started the training in such a manner that we operated at night and day in formation, and we would land we would take off from the airfield, do one circuit of cross country at a particular height, and then come back and land at the airfield to simulate that wherever we were going, in formation we would land. And this we did both by day and by night. And we did it also with lights and without lights, in such a fashion that this is what we would simulate for our actual operations whenever it happened in Pakistan. Now, when the balloon went up on December the 3rd, as per our unit war plans, we were to move 6 helicopters to Teliamora, which was where the 4 Corps headquarters were located, where General Sagat Singh was also located. And The other 4 helicopters were dispersed at different locations, as we were at that time not very sure that the airspace over East Pakistan was completely dominated by our Indian Air Force. But we came to know of that after 2-3 days of operation, and we then settled down our helicopters at base itself, except one helicopter which was at Aijal in Mizoram. While at Aijal, I was given the message that you have to move to Teliamora and then further to Kailashar to join the rest of our unit, who were then had been already tasked by General Sagat to carry out lift of 4-5 Gurkha battalion from Kailashar to Sylhet. At this point, I would like to just remind the viewers that our role, actually a wartime role, was only casualty evacuation and communication. That was all our role. And Heliborne operation was nowhere mentioned as our role at any point of time. So this was a great innovation that General Sagat sprang on us, and it was indeed a great surprise. But the helicopter by itself is such a versatile machine. We were really prepared for anything that was, thrown at us at that point of time from the army or from our higher formations in command. And now I would like to tell the viewers that Group Captain Chandan Singh, who was the station commander at Jorat, was designated as the Kilo Flight Commander at Agartala.
Chandan Singh joined the Jodhpur Lancers in 1941. The Jodhpur Lancers was amalgamated into the President's Bodyguard and the 61st Cavalry. Singh, then a captain, joined the Indian Air Force. His involvement started in the Bangladesh War sometime in July 1971. The Air Officer Commanding in Chief, AOCNC, Eastern Air Command, Air Marshal Diwan, tasked him to take charge of the training of about a dozen Bengali pilots and 100 airmen who had defected from the Pakistani Air Force. He was to create a nucleus for the future Bangladesh Air Force. The aim was to build up to at least one squadron strength, but sufficient pilots and aircrafts were not available. He was given 2 Otter passenger aircraft and 1 Alouette helicopter for training. He started with training the pilots on Otters in the night time with low-level flying. He moved the Bengali pilots and airmen to a satellite airfield at Dimapur. For here, he could train them without interruption of our operations at Jorhat. This training paid great dividends, and when the war broke out in December, the Bengali pilots performed magnificently. The aircraft were modified and fitted with 2 chutes to drop 25-pound bombs and 2 rocket pods, each carrying 14 rockets. In addition, a light machine gun was mounted in the cockpit behind the pilot. Within 1 month, Indian Air Force trained 5 pilots to fly solo in all roles of bombing and rocketing at night.
And their role was initially that the Otter was used for bombing at Chittagong, and the helicopter gave us support, air support, because it had guns fitted on the side, and that guns were used to clear the opposition at Sylhet when we were going into land. This was done during the operation.
On 3rd December, Chandan went to headquarters of 4 Corps at Teliamora in Agartala to meet the Corps Commander, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh. On 7th December 71, I was asked to proceed to Teliamora, headquarters 4 Corps, and be at their disposal. Late in the afternoon, I was told to go rendezvous with my unit at Kailashar.
Group Captain Chandan Singh actually had a very good understanding with General Sagat.
I later discovered General Sagat Singh told Chandan Singh on the 7th November that you are with us, he said. You stay with us. 110 Helicopter Squadron under Squadron Leader Sandhu was landing at Kailashar and he was to take charge of them. He also told Chandan, we launch a Heliborne operation against Sylhet. The Gurkhas were tasked to be landed behind enemy lines.
To take over Sylhet, and at that time, as per intelligence reports, they didn't know that there was a brigade strength at Sylhet.
I found on arrival Brigadier Bunty Quinn, Commander 59 Mountain Brigade, with Chandan, had come around 1100 hours and took Sandhu and pushed Vir for reconnaissance of suitable landing sites at Kalura and Sylhet. They chose large paddy fields at both places. The landing site at Kalura was just north of the railway station, adjacent to the rail and road. At Sylhet, the landing zone was about 2 to 3 kilometers southwest of the railway station and two important bridges across River Surma, which led to the town and military garrison.
So Kalora was right inside East Pakistan at that time. So we reached Kailashar, removed those clamshell doors which were at the back. That is for easy access to the helicopter for the troops. And they would board the helicopter from behind. And we were not using the main door, we were only using the door at the back. So 5 to 10 troops used to board from the left side and 5 to 10 on the right side. And that's how they were accommodated inside the aircraft. And we would take these troops like that in formations of 3 helicopters and land at that LZ, at landing ground at Sylhet. Which, as I told you, is just close to the railway station. Initially, the Pakistanis were a little rattled by seeing so many helicopters coming. So they did not open fire. But as the troops were on the ground, they started opening fire. And subsequent sorties which we did after the first wave, they were all helicopters had been shot, but not in a way that they could not be flown. They continued to fly, and that did not deter us in our entire operation. That morning, till late in the evening, till about 4 o'clock, we continued our drop of this 45GR. At that time, there were no more troops to be dropped. But a message came from Sylhet that they had only that 250 were the number of troops that had been dropped by that time. And that was not sufficient to hold against, they had come to know by that time that there was a brigade in opposition to them. And for that, they wanted reinforcements. And reinforcements had to be sent at night because that was an urgent requirement. So task was given to our CO, who at that time initially said, I don't have any lights or anything, how do I go there? And maybe you'll wait till early morning when first light, at that time we can drop as many troops as you want. But the Gurkhas were insistent that they need this reinforcement at night only.
Around 1800 hours, well after sunset, Chandan Singh said no more flying during the night because it was too dangerous and we would be sitting ducks to the fusillade aimed at us. 45GR, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel A.B. Harolikar under Brigadier Bunty Quinn, had been fighting continuous battles with great valor for over 2 weeks without rest. They had just returned from the Battle of Ghazipur, where they had taken huge casualties, even losing their 2IC Sham Kelkar in battle. So when the night flying was called off, there were just 254 Gurkhas at Sylhet, without a HF radio set, with very little or no water, food or ammunition. No heavy infantry weapons like mortars, facing annihilation from two brigades and the Sylhet garrison of the adversary. After much heated discussions, the operation resumed and continued throughout the night. We did a total of 14 sorties with 5 helicopters between 00 hours and 0500 hours. We carried 124 troops and 2,500 kgs of equipment. Sylhet had two brigades, and the Sylhet garrison and the Gurkhas, led by Lieutenant Colonel Arun Harorika, were to be heli-dropped behind the enemy lines on the banks of the river Surma. In Sylhet, the half a battalion of 4-5 Gurkhas held out from 7th December to 16th against two Pakistani brigades of 202 and 313, plus the Sylhet garrison, without food, water, or ammunition. The Pakistanis believed, based on the helicopter sorties and an erroneous BBC bulletin, that the IAF had heli-dropped a brigade of Gurkhas. The two brigades and the Sylhet garrison finally surrendered to half a battalion of 4-5 GR.
And also, I must tell you that on the 12th, we did 2 casualty evacuations from Sylhet by night of the Gurkhas. And we evacuated them from there to Teliamora, from Sylhet to Teliamora, which was done ex-Agartala.
Unfortunately, the new 2IC of the battalion, Major Cardozo, faced misfortune as he stepped on a mine and lost a leg.